in to the big deal of the night. Lost Lou Holtz earlier today at 89 years of age. I mean, look, you'd sign up for 89 right now. At least a large majority of us would. That is a great life. But it did kind of strike me when I saw that. I got a chance to interview Lou Holtz a handful of times. But the coolest thing about doing what we do, and honestly, it's so far beyond a perk of the job. I mean, the fact that in 2016, I actually got to sit down and have a conversation with Lou Holtz when he was here in Jacksonville for an event. He came by the radio station. We had him in studio. I got to talk with him a little bit after the show, got my picture taken with him. I put that on social media. It's not every day you get to sit down and talk with a legend in the coaching profession like Lou Holtz. And that was 10 years ago. I spent 15 minutes with him after we got off the air. But as I told Rick, the one thing I remember about that interaction from a decade ago is how legitimately interested Coach was in learning about me, right? I'm just a random guy on a radio show that he's done 1,000 of interview-wise, year after year after year. Yet he asked me about where I went to high school, if my family was here, where I was originally from. I told him I was originally from Tallahassee, but I moved over here when I was 11 years old and lived in Jacksonville ever since. So we made a crack about Florida State in a joking manner, obviously, because that 1993 Notre Dame-Florida State game. And that's just the kind of guy Lou Holtz was. Again, I had interviewed him on the phone a few times, got a chance to meet him in person 10 years ago, and it was a great moment. It was a surreal moment for me. So I was saddened when I heard about his passing earlier today at the age of 89. And boy, I mean, 2026 has been rough right out of the gate, right? I mean, you think about the celebrities that we have lost this year, and it's only the beginning of March. You think about, Catherine O'Hara of Home Alone fame. You think about James Van Der Beek, right? Way too young. I mean, I think he was like 48 years old. Robert Carradine, who I didn't even mention from Revenge of the Nerds fame. If you're my age, if you're, anywhere from 30, 35, 40, 45, Revenge of the Nerds is a cult classic. And we lost Lewis a couple of weeks ago, which was just very tragic. And then today, Lou Holtz. I get it. As we get older, this is going to happen. And it beats the alternative, because if we don't get any older, obviously, that's means we're no longer around. So we just have to deal with it. But it just seems 2026, right out of the gate, it seems like every week we're losing somebody. Robert Duvall as well, of course, the great actor. Of course, he was 95 years old. Just unbelievable career that Robert Duvall had. But yeah, we lost Lou Holtz at the age of 89. Of course, locally here, he's best known for that Notre Dame-Florida State game in 1993. I thought Lou Holtz, from what I remember, and again, I don't remember anything about Lou Holtz prior to Notre Dame. Obviously, he did a lot before Notre Dame, but my memories of him were in South Bend and beyond. I thought he did a good job at South Carolina, and I honestly thought on television he did a very good job as a commentator. ESPN, I think he did some work on CBS as well. I really thought he added a lot to the broadcast, to the TV broadcast, back after he retired in the early to mid-2000s. So prayers up to his family and friends as we lose Lou Holtz today at the age of 89 years old. We'll talk sports tonight on Hacker After Dark. It's what we do. It's what we've done for many, many years, and we're certainly glad you are spending part of your Wednesday evening with us. Jaguar news right out of the gate, because every night on HAD, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Aaron Williams, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No, because it is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
I will tell you, Cody Carpentier from Roster Watch, he was just in Indianapolis for the scouting combine. I've had Cody on for years, not only talking about the draft, but talking about the Jaguar roster as a whole. He's going to join me coming up here in less than 15 minutes to give his thoughts on some free agent topics revolving around Jacksonville and potentially some draft issues revolving around the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like what the Jaguars did earlier today. They re-signed Quentin Morris, a 1-year, $3 million deal. You know, when I saw the list of free agents, obviously the four that jumped out, the big four as we've called them, are Devin Lloyd and Travis Etienne and Monteric Brown and probably Greg Newsome. And then after that, you got into the Andrew Wingards of the world, Tim Patrick, Dennis Gardex of the world. But I remember thinking 6 weeks ago, roughly, that there were two guys that I hoped the Jaguars would re-sign prior to free agency. Two guys that, to me, fit the criteria of what Liam Cohen and James Gladstone were talking about last year, Tony Boselli as well, intangibly rich, right? Remember that saying? Intangibly rich, Jaguar DNA. One of them was Matt Dickerson, the defensive lineman, who the Jaguars have already re-signed this offseason. He will be back in Jacksonville in 2026. The other was Quentin Morris, who the Jaguars re-signed today. Are Quentin Morris and Matt Dickerson going to go to the Pro Bowl next year? No. Are they going to be on the All-Pro ballot, All-Pro nominations? Of course not. But what Matt Dickerson and Quentin Morris are good, solid football players. And you talk about the kind of culture you want to build here in Jacksonville, the kind of personnel you want to bring into that locker room. There's two guys right there, Dickerson and Morris, that were relatively unknown to the fan base coming in, were practice squad guys, weren't even on the 53-man roster when the season started, but they just kept working, man. They kept working and working and working, and Morris was first called up. You notice Quentin Morris on special teams. I'll never forget San Francisco, that game out in San Francisco. I remember coming on here that Monday after that win in San Francisco. Remember, you had the Parker Washington punt return for a touchdown. And I came on and said, did you see number 80? Number 80 was blocking his tail off out there. 80 was making plays all over the field on special teams. That was Quentin Morris. And you do that enough on special teams where then at some point you kind of work into the tight end room. When Hunter Long got hurt, and then Quentin Morris, not only on special teams, but started doing some nice things at tight end. And dare I say, by the end of the year, Quentin Morris was probably tight end 2 on this roster. So I love the fact that they brought Quentin Morris back. Same thing with Matt Dickerson. You know why Mason Smith wasn't dressing towards the end of the year? You know why he was a healthy scratch towards the end of the year? Because Matt Dickerson was out playing him. And Matt Dickerson, who actually got starting caliber reps on the Jaguar D-line, has also been re-signed. Intangibly rich, Jaguar DNA. That is exactly what Liam Cohen, James Gladstone, and Tony Boselli are talking about. Living proof with Dickerson and Quentin Morris. And both guys get signed before they hit free agency. And both guys will be back here in Jacksonville in 2026. Saw a crazy rumor earlier today as well. Was it CBS Sports that I believe had this in regards to Kenneth Walker, the NFL most valuable player of the Super Bowl? By the way, that was 24 days ago was the Super Bowl. Kenneth Walker was in the Disney parade 3 weeks ago, basically, and he's set to hit the free agent market next Monday. And there have been a lot of rumors about Kenneth Walker. Denver seems to be very much involved there. There's a thought Kansas City could be involved there. But then CBS also threw out Jacksonville. When I saw that, I said, huh. And I didn't think too much of it at the time, because why would you go out and sign Kenneth Walker if you're going to let ETN move on in free agency, you don't really have a lot of money to do it. But then I got to thinking about James Gladstone. It's a guy that does things a little different, man. He's a different cat. Last year, when he traded Christian Kirk to the Houston Texans, we sat there and were like, what are you doing? And he flat out released Evan Ingram, traded Tank Bigsby in the preseason, signed Fred Johnson only to trade him back to Philadelphia, released Gabe Davis, traded Tyson Campbell. Again, did all of those moves work? Yeah, arguable. Some maybe didn't. But James Gladstone, I think, proved last year that he's a little different, right? He kind of keeps people on your toes a little bit. What he does is maybe a little bit off the beaten path of most general managers in the league. So if there's a thought among NFL league circles that Kenneth Walker may be considered here in Jacksonville, I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss it. Now, again, ETN's a free agent. The consensus really is that he's probably not going to be back. And most people would sit there and say, all right, well, why would you be interested in Kenneth Walker if you already have a free agent in Travis Etienne you're just going to let walk? What if they like Kenneth Walker more than Travis Etienne? That's plausible, right? That's certainly not a crazy notion or thought. Again, when you trade Tyson Campbell after a Monday Night Football win over Kansas City, you're 4-1 on the year and you trade Tyson Campbell, how much should really surprise or shock us anymore about what the Jaguars do? Do I expect Kenneth Walker to be a Jacksonville Jaguar? No. But I do believe that CBS isn't conjuring that out of thin air. They had to have some inkling when they had that. I think Jonathan Jones had it. Some idea or some conversation to say, hey, Jacksonville might be a dark horse here for Kenneth Walker. Where would they find the money to get Kenneth Walker? Well, that's a great question, because they don't have a lot of money. In fact, as we sitting here talking right now, they're still $16 million over the salary cap. They're going to have to make some moves quickly because the legal tampering period begins in 5 days, next Monday, March the 9th. But I do think, and you look at what Les Snead and the Rams did today, right? Trading a first-round pick for Trent McDuffie, a corner from Kansas City. You think about who James Gladstone learned under, Les Snead, for 9 years out in Los Angeles. Gladstone, in a very short amount of time, proved to me anyway last year that he is a little different in a good way. He will make trades that you don't see coming. The Jaguars have been remarkably quiet. Have you noticed that? There's all sorts of rumors about this NFL team or that NFL team, what's going to happen here, what's going to happen there. Will those things come to fruition? I don't know. It is rumor season, but there's rumors around a lot of NFL organizations right now. What have we heard coming out of the Miller Electric Center? Crickets, right? I mean, you've heard very, very little about this scenario or that scenario. The Jaguars are interested in this guy. The Jaguars are not interested in that guy. It's going to be fascinating next week because, again, unlike free agency in the past, usually the Jaguars are one of the more active teams. They certainly were last year. I would be surprised if that's the case. Salary cap wise, it doesn't seem to be an option. I think next week you're going to lose a lot more guys than you bring in. Devin Lloyd, ETN, Greg Newsome, Dewey Wingard. There's going to be a lot more guys leaving to me that are coming in here. But again, I use that word surprise. Should we be surprised about anything James Gladstone does within reason? I don't know. He certainly made some splash moves last year. Most of them worked. Jacoby Myers, a home run. Got the Tyson Campbell contract off the books. Trading Tank Bigsby seemed like a crazy thing to do until you saw what Travis Etienne and Bashel Tutin did. Releasing Evan Ingram? Are you kidding? But then look at what Brenton Strange did. Trading Christian Kirk to a division rival? What are we doing? Parker Washington said, hey, how are you? Gladstone did a lot of stuff last year. Most of it worked. Some of it didn't. De'Ami Brown, 1 year, $10 million. That didn't work. Greg Newsome probably wasn't as good as they would have hoped for. But again, I think most of that deal was to try to get Tyson Campbell's contract, or at least some of it, off the books in the future. So when there's at least a report out now that Kenneth Walker potentially could be in play here in Jacksonville, he was also linked to a bunch of other teams too. I just don't know how surprised we should be by that. Do I think Kenneth Walker will be a Jacksonville Jaguar in 2026? No. But I thought a lot of things going into last offseason too. And James Gladstone proved pretty quick that things we think right now may be vastly different than what we're talking about this time next week. Again, legal tampering begins on Monday. You can negotiate Monday and Tuesday, and you can officially sign on Wednesday when the new league calendar begins at 4 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday, 1 week from today, March the 11th. We got a lot to do tonight on Hacker After Dark. We got the college football encyclopedia, Mike Huguenin, joining us at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. We're going to talk a little association, a little NBA talk with Sean Devaney of Heavy.com towards the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour. And coming up next, we're going to get into the Jaguars. We're going to get into free agency. We're going to get into this draft class. Cody Carpentier of Roster Watch. It's what the guy does, man. He analyzes rosters. He analyzes the draft. He's been doing it for a long time. Cody joins me next to do a deep dive into the Jaguar offseason. And that's next on a Wednesday night in Northeast Florida. We're glad you're with us. We're here till 10 o'clock, Jacksonville. It's Hacker After Dark.
It's the First Coast's biggest event of the year.
The Players' Championship.
Track your favorite golfers and get live Southeast Orthopedic Specialist leaderboard updates. Teamed up by G&H Tire Service, Michelob Ultra, and Sawgrass Asset Management on 1010XL.
Hey folks, Rick Ballou here from the Blue Crab Crab House. February means the Mardi Gras menu returns to the Blue Crab Crab House. Gumbo, shrimp Orleans, blackened redfish, appetizers, dessert, and more. This includes, of course, their regular menu where you get crabs from the Alaskan waters, the Canadian waters, the Southern Georgia waters. It's only at the Blue Crab Crab House. Doors open at 4:30, San Jose, and of course, Jewington Creek Road.
With 50 years of fabrication expertise in towing products, the family at Cannons of Jacksonville can repair or install precisely what you need to tow with confidence. Visit cannonsofjacks.com, where quality and customer satisfaction collide.
Go where the air is fresh and nature is your landscape.
Amazing, isn't it?
We go to the great outdoors with Jeff Lageman, Captain Kevin Favor, and Captain Kirk Walls on the Nimnit Outdoors Show every Saturday morning from 7 to 10 on 1010XL.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year, and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees, about $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org, and you can apply there.
Apply by May 14th.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. I'm celebrating a little anniversary this week. 2 years ago, I hit my goal weight with a Waco 180. 40 pounds gone, and now I know it's not 100 plus like Hacker, but 40 was my number. That was the weight holding me back, slowing me down. And the best part? Free maintenance for life. That's the difference. I didn't do it with meds, didn't do it with side effects, didn't rely on a shortcut that I had to stay on forever. I did it with a plan, awesome coaching, and learning how to eat in a way that actually works in real life. Awaken 180 knows you travel, knows you eat out, knows you have cravings. A real-life plan for real-life people. Maybe your number's 25 pounds. Maybe it's 40 like mine. Maybe it's over 100 like Hacker. Whatever your number is, we're proof you can reach it and keep it off without putting something in your body you don't want there. Awaken 180 works. Get your number at awaken180weightloss.com. That's awaken180weightloss.com or call 844-346-1800.
Gold is now around $5,000 an ounce, and silver at an all-time high. If you need cash to help pay bills, then you've got to go to the Estates Roadshow. Gold and silver, old rings, chains, even broken jewelry. Don't wait. Cash in while gold and silver are hot. Go to the Estates Roadshow Monday through Friday in 2 great locations, St. Augustine and Palm Coast. Bring your gold, silver, coins, diamonds, and watches, even broken pieces, and get cash on the spot. The prices of gold and silver are at an all-time high, so there's never been a better time to sell. No appointments, no fees, no pressure, just friendly professional buyers with over 35 years in the business. Go to the Estates Roadshow Monday through Friday in St. Augustine at World Golf Renaissance, just off I-95 and International Golf Parkway, and in Palm Coast at the Holiday Inn Express, just off 95 and Palm Coast Parkway. Get some cash in your hands today to help pay those bills at the Estates Roadshow. For more info, visit estatesroadshow.com and follow Estates Roadshow on Facebook for all upcoming events.
Frank Frangie here for Coil Fencing. Since 1927, Jacksonville has trusted Coil Fencing to protect what matters. And I trust them too. From tough chain link to your commercial project to sleek aluminum fencing your HOA will love, Coil does it all. Did you know that Coil can also install, service, and maintain those automatic gates that help protect your neighborhood or business? To schedule a complimentary consultation, visit CoilJacks.com. That's COYLE Jacks.com. Coil Fencing, A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The NFL Scouting Combine in the rearview mirror. The NFL Draft now next month in Pittsburgh. And, of course, we are less than a week away until NFL free agency. It's going to be a busy time for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's talk about it with Cody Carpentier of Roster Watch. We always love talking ball with Cody, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Cody, it's been a little while, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, it's been a while. I just had the Senior Bowl at the end of January. Just got back from the NFL Combine a couple of days ago. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was dealing with a little bit of a head cold from those 25-degree days in Indianapolis, but it's always a fun time.
Yeah, you're a busy man. There's no doubt about that. You know, Cody, you and I haven't spoke, obviously, since the Jaguar season ended. I'm just curious, a mile-high view from you. Year number 1 for Liam Cohen and James Gladstone. On the surface, you go from 4 wins to 13 wins. Looks like an overwhelming success. What did you take away from what the Jaguars did in 2025?
I thought it was big. I mean, I remember talking a year ago about kind of the transformation that could come because of the bones that were on this roster and some of the moves they made last offseason that kind of allowed them to get there. And I questioned a couple of draft picks last year, but it looks like it came through. And interestingly enough, it's like, you know, I wouldn't call Travis Hunter a bust or anything, but like I think the Travis Hunter thing like wasn't even really that big of a part to that 13-4 season. So I think just the way they came together and finished the season out was maybe the most impressive part. And I think just, you know, with Trevor Lawrence being there and with Gladstone and how Liam Cohen's coaching, it feels like they're, you know, going in the right direction, where you can't say the same thing about the Indianapolis Colts right now. Tennessee still feels like they're at least a year or two away from competing with Jacksonville and Houston. So it's got to be a big win, especially in year 1. It's got to be refreshing being in Jacksonville and feeling this from Liam Cohen.
Obviously, some of the big news that's come out here in Jacksonville is that reportedly Travis Hunter will be, I guess, primarily a defensive back, sprinkling in at wide receiver. But when you look at the roster, Cody, I mean, good grief. You got the emergence of Parker Washington, the arrival of Jacoby Myers, Brian Thomas Jr., Brenton Strange. I mean, there is only one football to go around. Whereas on the defensive side of the ball, Monteric Brown's a free agent. Greg Newsome's a free agent. Just a sheer number, it looks like Travis Hunter is needed more on defense here than he is on offense.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the interesting conversation is that, when he was coming out a year ago, it was like, well, if he was a 100% of the time wide receiver and he could focus all his energy there, we think he'd be potentially the best, if not the best, wide receiver in this class. And conversely, if he was to spend all of his time at cornerback, he would clearly be the number one cornerback in last year's draft class. So it was always the idea as if he could stay healthy all season doing both and how that dynamic would work. And I think when you look at how this roster is built right now, and I was a big fan of Parker Washington coming out in 2023 from Penn State. So it was cool to see him break out this last year. And then the Jakobi Meyers trade, I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts on that, but that thing felt like that was like he just wanted out of Las Vegas. Nobody really wanted to give him a chance. Jacksonville obviously gives him that chance. He gets the extension, and the rest is history. I think that receiver room just looks entirely different than maybe how anybody in Jacksonville could have portrayed it at the beginning of the year. So, Travis Hunter locked in at cornerback to me is the smartest move here, especially with the question mark that's been around that cornerback room for what feels like the last 6 years.
Cody Carpentier of Roster Watch. Yeah, the Jakobi Meyers trade was a home run, not only on the field, but what he brought to that locker room, what he brought to that wide receiver room. And the interesting thing, Cody, is you mentioned they did a lot of 13-4 without Travis Hunter. They never even saw Caleb Ransaw, the third-round pick who got hurt in the preseason, and Wyatt Milam played sparingly at the end of the year due to injury, and they get all three of those guys back. And we'll get to this year's draft class in a moment, but my goodness, you went 13-4 without really getting very much, if anything at all, from your top three draft picks in 2025.
Yeah, Ransaw's a stud. I mean, Ransaw's a stud. You guys know that. And, he's a guy that, obviously was a third-round pick this last year, but he brings the speed element. He brings the athleticism element and the competitive element that I think are all important to growing at that position, especially. You have to have confidence, obviously, to win at the cornerback position. But it's a group that, this class in 2027 is good at cornerback. And when you have 4 picks in the top 100, none in the first round, it's a good place to be for cornerback, but you already have a base with Travis Hunter and Ransaw, which I think is super important just to the longevity of that position. And, I just kind of, as top down, just kind of was like, well, I guess the move of trading for Greg Newsome, potentially they could, put a couple of years on him, but I don't know if they'll do that. And with the room looking like it is and the draft class right now having some depth in that 50 to 100 area, they might add another 2 bodies there.
Do you envision Ransaw more as a nickel or more as a safety?
I would say nickel.
And that seems to be the thought about him, which makes what Monteric Brown and Greg Newsome may or may not do in free agency a little more complicated. Let's go there next. I mean, there's a certain thought here that the Jaguars are obviously going to lose Devin Lloyd. Let's begin there. If Devin Lloyd leaves, they got Ventrell Miller on the roster. They got Jack Kaiser on the roster. Or could they potentially find a linebacker, say, in round 2 or round 3? What's your thought there about replacing Devin Lloyd?
Yeah, I would feel good about it. I mean, I know there was a lot of upside in that frame, and it's kind of a weird body type at that linebacker position that, we've seen guys come out the last, 5-6 years of Isaiah Simmons. And this year, Sonny Styles is going to probably be a top 5-6 pick from Ohio State with the similar 6'4", 220-plus pound athletic frame. When you look at this draft class in 2027, there's guys that, yeah, would it be nice to have your first round pick to potentially use on that linebacker? Sure. But I mean, that's not a position you generally want to spend that high draft capital on. I would say, honestly, the name that really pops off the page more than anything at 56, Anthony Hilp Jr. from Texas is probably going to be gone. We've heard a lot of buzz about him. He was a month ago conversed heavily in the second round area, but it's kind of the flat circle thing with the NFL draft where some of these guys that are first round talents get talked about in the second round and then come back around to the first. The name that I would look at, though, if I'm in Jacksonville, is Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech, the guy that was the horseman of that Texas Tech defenses last year, causing turnovers, sideline to sideline every single play. He played over 700 snaps each of the last 2 seasons. Just a really underrated athlete. A lot of people were worried about what the athleticism would look like for Jacob Rodriguez at the NFL Combine last week, and he came through in flying colors as far as his athleticism. At 6'1", 200, I think he was 35 pounds or 231 pounds, jumped almost 40 inches, jumped over 10 feet in the broad jump, had a sub 7-second 3-cone, which is great, and ran sub 4.6. I think he's an athletic enough linebacker that can command the defense and lead a defense, and he'll be there at 56. And there's a couple of other names like Josiah Trotter. He's a second generation NFL guy from Missouri. He might be gone at that point, but really the name I would circle is Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech there at 56.
Cody Carpentier of Roster Watch with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Cody, kind of a similar question offensively. Now, I think it's a little more complicated. Devin Lloyd is already basically gone. Travis Etienne is probably gone. I think there is a world where Jacksonville could potentially bring him back. But if he departs, we saw Bashal Tutin last year. He scored 7 touchdowns as a rookie. We saw a little bit of LaQuint Allen Jr. Would those be enough to replace Etienne? Should the Jaguars maybe draft somebody in the 3rd round? There's a lot of talk about Rachaad White and free agency, who obviously spent that year in Tampa with Liam Cohen. What would be the best course of action, in your opinion, to replace Travis Etienne?
The Rachaad White thing has legs. It has to have legs. He's always loved Rachaad White, but the deal is when he got there was Bucky Irving that was the most impressive. We talked to him a year ago at the NFL Combine, and he was just goo gaga over Bucky Irving. And you're like, all right, well, who's the next Bucky Irving? Is it going to be Bashal Tutin? Is it going to be LaQuint Allen? Who's going to be the one that's in the building before 5 o'clock in the morning studying tape like Bucky was? That was the question, right? I think Bashal Tutin showed enough this year. Now, have either of them showed enough to be Travis Etienne, to be what Leonard Fournette was once, like the lead back? We've known the last 3-4 years the NFL is going away from having that one dude in the backfield. You even saw in the Super Bowl with Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and with New England with Ramondre Stevenson and TreVeyon Henderson. Like, everyone's going to this 2-back setup. And it's worked in other places with 3 and 4 at times. And I think this is a backfield where you let Travis Etienne walk. You don't spend the money on the running back. That's always been like one of my, big check boxes as far as like to tell what GM knows what he's doing and what doesn't, is like spending money on the running back position, especially when the market is high and you're going to end up having to spend $6, $7, $8 million on a guy that you shouldn't be spending $6, $7, $8 million on. So I think when you look at this draft class, it's not really that great. You obviously have Jeremiah Love at the top of the food chain, who's going to go off in the top 10. But after that, it's a big mismatch of guys at the running back position that could go in round 2, but could also fall all the way to round 3. And now as Jacksonville sits there with 3 middle to late 3rd round picks, I think it's a perfect spot to converse any of these guys. I think you're getting a value on Nick Singleton right now from Penn State, who broke a big metatarsal bone in his foot at the Senior Bowl, didn't get to work out at the Combine. So we don't officially get to see him run in the 4.3s. He ran a 4.33, I think, last spring at Penn State, squats over 660 pounds. Like, he is your prototypical stud that should have competed with Jeremiah Love for the top running back spot, like the most prolific running back in Penn State history. Yes, ahead of Saquon Barkley statistically. You also have Emmett Johnson, a guy that kind of fits that ETN / Aaron Jones / McCaffrey, like catch the ball to the backfield, brings dynamism, can run between the tackles, do all those things. But he's about 202, 203 pounds. So on the lighter end, but those are just a couple of the names. And then you have Mike Washington from Arkansas, who is 223 pounds, runs a 4.33, one of just 4 human beings in the Southeastern Conference in college football to come out and run in the 4.3s at more than 220 pounds. Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, Nile Davis, and Mike Washington from Arkansas. So there's some gems in this draft class, and I think the 3rd round is exactly where you're going to see a ton of them go off the board. Jacksonville's got 3 selections in that area, and that's where the value is going to sit.
Final moments, Cody Carpentier of Roster Watch. You alluded to it earlier. No 1st-round pick. They got 5 picks in the top 120, 4 picks in the top 100. And, Cody, you're more in this world than I am, certainly. I've been doing a lot of catching up on this class. But in people I've talked to over the last few weeks, maybe not the most top-heavy class, maybe only 15 or so guys with first-round grades this year. So day 2, having a bunch of picks like Jacksonville does, is not necessarily a bad position to be in.
No, it's a great spot to be in because it's an odd class from the perspective of what positions are the strongest. The safety position is pretty strong. You can go all the way down into round 4 before you start to really, maybe even round 5 before you get tired of some of these guys. And even then, you got some hellacious athletes like Lorenzo Styles, the brother of Sonny Styles, that ran in the 4.2s. And you get some super smart dudes like Michael Taft from Texas, VJ Payne from Kansas State. There's a lot of value at these positions that you might not expect that. And you talk about Jacksonville that could use positional strength there. Defensive tackle is a position that I like. It's a little bit deeper later in the draft. And then the offensive line, the interior is kind of the sleepiest position. I feel like the last couple of years that I've come on during this time of the season, it's the interior of the offensive line that we continually talk about. And Jacksonville's made moves to start to add depth there and trade for pieces and sign stuff in free agency. So I assume they're only going to continue to add pieces and micro update that interior. So I think you look there in round 4, round 5, and that's where a lot of the depth can come from. Logan Jones from Iowa, Ethan Anianwa from Ohio State, super long, 34.5-inch arms, who comes from Rice and didn't even really play at Ohio State this last year, but projects as a high-end traits guy in the future. And Micah Morris, a big bully interior guard from Georgia. So it's a lot of these odd positions that generally you think of like, all right, who's the edge? Who's the receiver? Who's the quarterback? It's not really that class this year.
Cody, final question. You piqued my interest. We got 60 seconds. There certainly, when you look at the roster, appears to be a need here in Jacksonville for interior defensive linemen. The Mason Smith situation may have run its course. He was a healthy scratch towards the end of last year. Armstead's not getting any younger. Devon Hamilton's nice, but not a lot of pass rush there. Of the interior D linemen potentially in round 3, who are a couple of guys Jaguar fans should know about?
Oh, I mean, this guy blew the combine apart last week. Caleb Proctor from southeastern Louisiana. He's a little bit smaller than those guys you named, 6'2", 291. He does have the 33-inch arms, which is good, but he ran a 4.79 at 291 pounds. This guy's a couple of years down the track, maybe year 2, you see him breaking out. Zane Durant, another great athlete out of Penn State. One of my favorites in the class, though, definitely has to go to Darrell Jackson from Florida State. This is a bigger human being. You're looking at him around that 6'5", 6'6", 340-pound area. He's going to be fringe, whether he can make it to you at that 81 area, but I think he's going to be in the conversation. And then last but not least, a name that really piqued my interest down there at the Senior Bowl, Devin Eastern, 6'6", 320 by way of Minnesota. This guy is just a grinder.
Cody, terrific stuff, man. Tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about Roster Watch and where they can find your work.
You can find everything over at rosterwatch.com. I just dropped my latest 3-round NFL mock draft over there on Monday. I'll have my updated top 50 big board up there next Monday. And every single day we're dropping nuggets on YouTube, on Roster Watch, and some rookie spotlights on every single player at rosterwatch.com. I appreciate it, man.
He's one of our favorites, Cody Carpentier of Roster Watch. Cody, thank you as always. We'll talk soon, pal.
Thank you, brother.
Live streaming from the XL Digital Studios. Brightened by Harbor Dental Care, Jacksonville's first choice for dental emergencies. Should we do it?
Let's do this.
More Jaguars, more Gators, and more Jacksonville. 1010XL, Jack Sports Radio.
Rick Ballou here with a congratulations for John's Auto. They've been in business in Jacksonville for 40 years. That's right, going all the way back to 1985. Right now, they'd like to thank each and every one of you who's ever gotten their vehicle serviced at John's Auto. So, car, truck, or diesel, all makes, all models, whether it's a routine maintenance or a complete engine overhaul, go to John's Auto on Arlington Road, johnautomotivejacks.com.
When it comes to glass, you don't want average. You want flawless. Duval Glass and Mirror has transformed homes and businesses across Jacksonville for over 35 years. Frameless showers that wow. Mirrors cut exactly to your style. Fogged or broken glass replaced. Decorative tabletops. Windows replaced or repaired to stand up to Florida storms. All backed by a 100% guarantee. Visit DuvalGlass.com for your free quote. There's only one name for glass and mirror around these parts. It's Duval.
All right, Jacksonville, Florida summer doesn't ease in. It shows up angry. One day you're fine, the next day your AC is fighting for its life. If your unit barely survived last year, don't push your luck. Make the smart move now. Call Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning. Honest pricing, no surprise markups. With the Beat the Heat early special, you can save $500 off a new AC system. Don't wait till it's 98 degrees and everyone's scrambling. Call for your free in-home estimate today. 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com. When you're stuck, call the Duck.
If your lawn took a beating this winter, listen up. Prosser here for Julington Creek Pest Control. They've just started the first of 3 rounds of premium granular fertilizer. No cheap liquid fertilizer here. Custom blended for Northeast Florida lawns. Their certified technicians apply slow-release nutrients. Rebuild your lawn thick, strong, and green over time. Plus, they protect your home from pests and termites. Call Julington Creek Pest Control today. Our family serving yours since 1984.
Checkmate. I'm Brendan Cecilia, founder of Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, Checkmate's mascot and brand ambassador.
Why do you even talk in these ads?
People see me on the trucks, Brendan, so they expect to hear from me as well.
But I have over a decade's experience personally installing high-quality polymer floors right here in Jacksonville.
Well, I'm a professional mascot, riding around on the side of your trucks, smiling at passers-by.
Then could you at least tell people about our 2-stage polymer application process? Give your garage the finishing touch with a gorgeous floor that's guaranteed to last?
A bit busy posing for selfies, I'm afraid.
Years of experience?
Check. Adorable mascot?
Check. The team you need to make your garage gorgeous? Checkmate!
Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate.
Visit checkmatecoatings.com. That's checkmatecoatings.com.
Hi, I'm Luke Pritchett, Volunteer Vice Chairman for the Players, representing the Cathedral Arts Project. Thanks to the Players, the Cathedral Arts Project is empowering children's creativity and supporting art educators in Northeast Florida. Only 6 days until the Players.
Prosser here for Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. If you've been wanting to upgrade your outdoor living space and just haven't pulled the trigger, you should call the experts at Lifetime Enclosures right now. From glass lanais to screened-in enclosures, Lifetime Enclosures and Flooring is the best in the business. Spring will be here before we know it. So give them a call today and upgrade that area that needs it the most. Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. Showroom just off Phillips Highway. Tell them Prosser sent you.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. Glad you're with us. 1010XL, 92.5 FM. You know, this time of year, every day, there is just a ton of NFL news as we get ready for free agency beginning next Monday. Today, no different. Just a ton of stuff going on. I guess the biggest piece of news was the trade that went down between the Chiefs and the Rams. Aaron Williams, you're probably the only Los Angeles Rams fan in Jacksonville, Florida. Or maybe you're one of a handful, not much more than that. Your thoughts on giving up a first-round pick? What is it, a 4th rounder, a 6th rounder, and a 3rd next year for Trent McDuffie? A good cornerback, but again, it just goes to show you Les Snead does not care about draft picks. The only difference this year is that he has 2 draft picks in round 1. Now he has 1 after the Trent McDuffie trade today.
Yeah, I'm still looking for some other Rams fans there in the Jacksonville area. I'll find some. I know there have to be some, but as far as the trade goes, I like the trade. The only gripe I have with it is that I wish they would have been able to swap with Kansas City that 13th for the 9th overall pick that Kansas City has. We have the 19th, or excuse me, we have the 13th.
You know, and that's the Atlanta Falcons pick, and that's kind of gotten lost in translation over the last couple of weeks with all the news that's come out. What an awful deal Atlanta made. That was the trade up to get James Pierce. James Pierce, look, we'll let the legal process play out, but remember, he got arrested in South Florida, and it's on video, and it did not look good. That is the guy Atlanta gave up a first-round pick for in 2026. The Rams own that pick. So the trade for Trent McDuffie was the Rams' own pick they still have Atlanta's pick. But again, Les Snead pulling the trigger on a big trade. Trent McDuffie, a good player. Now, the one thing I will say, and it's probably apples to oranges, but it's worth pointing out, the last all-pro corner that got traded out of Kansas City was L'Jarius Sneed. He went to Tennessee, and he was horrible. Will that happen to Trent McDuffie? I would tend to doubt it, but it is just worth pointing out that Sneed was terrible for the Titans. We'll see how McDuffie works out for the Rams. You know, we talk about renegotiations as well this time of year. The Jaguars are going to have to do that to get under the cap. The Jaguars currently still sit $16 million over the cap as the league calendar begins next Wednesday. Well, beginning today, or at least this morning, the Dallas Cowboys were $55 million over the cap. They then restructured the contracts of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyler Smith, which shaved off just a little bit over $66 million from their salary cap. I don't understand the wording in that. I don't understand how that's plausible. Every team does it, though. The Chiefs did it by doing it with Mahomes earlier this offseason, saved them like $40 million. So, yeah, Dallas was $55 million over the salary cap 6 hours ago. They restructured Dak Prescott, they restructured CeeDee Lamb, and they restructured Tyler Smith. They are now $11 million under the salary cap as, again, we get ready for free agency next week. News out of New England. Stephon Diggs, one and done with the Patriots. Patriots announced they will release Stephon Diggs after one season. I'd say it was a successful season. Stephon Diggs was a big reason why the Patriots ended up going to the Super Bowl. Now, talk about the legal process. There's some issues with Stephon Diggs he's going to have to deal with off the field. And how will that affect his market when free agency begins? Who knows? Certainly a very accomplished player. Probably starting to get on the downside of his career. Still productive. Somebody will sign him. The question is, and I look at Stephon Diggs kind of like a Mike Evans. If you just simply take the player, both guys at this point in their career got to be looking to win, right? Diggs and Mike Evans have made more money than they'll probably ever spend. Evans has a Super Bowl with the Bucs a couple years ago with Tom Brady. Diggs does not have a Super Bowl, but I would imagine both guys will probably want to go to a winner for the next year or so to see if, in Evans' case, if he can get another ring, or with Stephon Diggs to see if he can get his first ring. But maybe a little bit of a surprise that Stephon Diggs, 1 year in New England, one and done. Speaking of one and done, Jonnu Smith in Pittsburgh, one and done. The Steelers are going to release Jonnu Smith. He will be a free agent in what is becoming a very crowded tight end free agent market. We know about Isaiah Likely in Baltimore. We know about David Njoku in Cleveland, among others. You add now Jonnu Smith to that mix. Certainly there are some guys that can help teams in free agency. And Jonnu Smith now is added to that as he is released today in Pittsburgh. Speaking of Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show earlier today. Said some really interesting stuff. He went on the YouTube-only part of the McAfee show, so he said some stuff that he could not have gotten away with on ESPN. Looks like he's in good shape. Now, the interesting thing there, remember who the coach is now for the Steelers. It's Mike McCarthy, who Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl with in Green Bay. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be convinced to play one more year because he gets to play with Mike McCarthy with the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's the way, to me, it looks like it's trending. I'm sure the Rodgers camp will have to give the Steelers some clarity coming up here pretty soon. But, Aaron, I'm at the point now where I think Aaron Rodgers probably will come back for one more year in 2026.
thought the Steelers were relatively competitive last year. I mean, you know,
Well, they made the playoffs.
Well, yeah, that is true. I have a friend that's a big Steelers fan, and he says that they are, you know, dog water, as the kids call it today. But no, I think, you know, why wouldn't you come back? Still got DK. You know, you still got the defense over there. Ramsey, TJ Watt, all those guys. I mean, I think they can make some noise. You got a new regime coming in with the Steelers. I mean, I see him coming back. I don't see him leaving after last year.
And it's a crowded quarterback free agent crop as well. We know Kyler Murray will be available. Kirk Cousins will be available. A lot of talk about Tua potentially being available if/when he is released in Miami. We'll see. But it looks like, to me at least, that Aaron Rodgers is trending on coming back for one more year in 2026. Other things along the NFL wire, the Minnesota Vikings are one of those teams as well that's way over the cap. They got to do a lot of restructurings, and they've already announced a fair amount of releases that are taking place. We know Aaron Jones, the running back, is being released in Minnesota. We know Javon Hargraves, the defensive tackle, is being released in Minnesota.
Crazy.
It came out today that Jonathan Allen, the defensive tackle, is being released in Minnesota. And there's some talk they've put John Grenard, the former Florida Gator, on the trade block. He's been pretty good in the NFL with both Houston and Minnesota, but the Vikings have to get under the cap, and they got to shave about $45 million off. That's how far they are over the cap heading into next week. So they are releasing a lot of their veterans and potentially trading some guys off. As we mentioned with Jacksonville, it's going to happen sooner rather than later. We're going to get some news in the next 4 days about releases, restructurings, or trades, because the Jaguars still sit $16 million over the cap that they have to do something about prior to next week. So it is literally a matter of time before news breaks about the Jaguars doing something to help their financial situation. They have really until next Wednesday, but honestly until next Monday in order to do that. More on the NFL coming up later on in the 9 o'clock hour. Coming up next, let's get into the world of college basketball. Did you see the Florida Gators last night? Another dominating win for Florida. I'm not sure they're not the best team in America right now. We'll talk about it next here on Hacker After Dark.
Play-by-play is full of plot twists.
Did that just happen?
And high-octane drama.
And this game is tied.
Experience the most play-by-play sports on 1010XL.
Looking for golf that doesn't feel like golf? Welcome to Pine Royale, Callahan's new golf entertainment destination. Play a 9-hole par 3 course, compete in TrackMan-powered driving bays, and get ready for all-new 18-hole mini golf coming soon. As the sun goes down, the course lights up. Add in great food, a full bar, and space to hang with the whole crew, and suddenly golf feels a whole lot more social. Search Pine Royale Callahan and come play today.
Been in a car crash? I'm local attorney Rick Alexander, and I've made it our mission at the Alexander Law Practice to listen to you so I can fight for the best possible result for you. I've been practicing over 30 years, and our team focuses on guiding you through the entire process. And because fees and reimbursement costs come out at the end of the case, I will never ask you to come out of pocket. For a free review, call 904-400-6600 or log on to alexanderlawpractice.com, Jacksonville.
If you think it's great to be a you can get more Gators anytime on the Gator Podcast channel.
Go Gators!
Set up by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists on the video and social channels of 1010XL.
Gold is now around $5,000 an ounce, and silver at an all-time high. If you need cash to help pay bills, then you've got to go to the Estates Roadshow. Gold and silver, old rings, chains, even broken jewelry. Don't wait. Cash in while gold and silver are hot. Go to the Estates Roadshow Monday through Friday in 2 great locations, St. Augustine and Palm Coast. Bring your gold, silver, coins, diamonds, and watches, even broken pieces, and get cash on the spot. The prices of gold and silver are at an all-time high, so there's never been a better time to sell. No appointments, no fees, no pressure, just friendly professional buyers with over 35 years in the business. Go to the Estates Roadshow Monday through Friday in St. Augustine at World Golf Renaissance, just off I-95 and International Golf Parkway, and in Palm Coast at the Holiday Inn Express, just off 95 and Palm Coast Parkway. Get some cash in your hands today to help pay those bills at the Estates Roadshow. For more info, visit estatesroadshow.com and follow Estates Roadshow on Facebook for all upcoming events.
The Florida Forum welcomes world-renowned chef and humanitarian Jose Andres at the Center for Performing Arts March 31st. His impact spans the globe as founder of World Central Kitchen, Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, and global leader using food as a force for change. All proceeds for the Florida Forum benefit the Women's Board of Wilson Children's Hospital, supporting a new outdoor play area for behavioral health services. Get your tickets now at thefloridaforum.com.
This is Victor Patel, CEO of North Florida Medical Center. Have you been in an auto accident? Are you feeling pain or stiffness? Our board-certified team has over 15 years' experience helping patients recover through chiropractic care, physical therapy, pain management, primary care, and neurology. Even minor injuries can cause long-term problems if left untreated. Schedule your free consultation today at nfmcjax.com. North Florida Medical Center, bringing the care back to healthcare.
Hey, Jacksonville, David Garrard here. If you want a street-legal golf cart that's built with quality and style, check out Dynamic Drives and Designs in Jax Beach. They have new, used, and fully customized carts from the top brands like Atlas, Dodge, and Pilot Car. Every cart gets a complete expert inspection, so you know it's ready to hit the road. Their team can help you design the perfect custom cart that fits your style and needs. For your custom golf cart, visit dynamicdrivesdesign.com today and see your perfect ride.
Create a backyard your family will love. Jax Outdoor Solutions, an authorized dealer of Celebrity Greens, installs PGA quality artificial turf golf greens and complete outdoor spaces. From turf to custom hardscapes, landscaping, and lighting, every project is built for style, durability, and family fun. Locally owned and trusted across Northeast Florida, customers rave about their results. Check their 5-star reviews on Google. Plan your dream backyard today at jaxoutdoorsolutions.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Hacker, After Dark, on 1010XL.
Halftime, Hacker After Dark. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock as we do every night right here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. Coming up in about 10 minutes or so, I call him the College Football Encyclopedia. My buddy Mike Huguenin, as we'll talk Florida football as the spring kicked off for the Gators yesterday, and head coach John Summerall. We'll also do a little college basketball talk with Mike Huguenin. And speaking of college basketball, the Florida Gators, one night ago, another 34-point win. Now, I know the SEC is not as good as it was a year ago. But the SEC is still going to get 10 or maybe even 11 teams in the NCAA tournament. And when you get 10 or 11 teams in the NCAA tournament, you're probably a pretty good conference. I'm just speculating there. You're probably decent at least. And Florida, in this winning streak, which is now 10 games long, 10 consecutive conference games, they have absolutely destroyed people. I want to say, other than the Kentucky game, which was a 9-point win, they've won every other game by double digits. That includes a 23-point beating of Alabama. That includes a 34-point beating of John Calipari in Arkansas. That includes a 20-point beating of Mike White in Georgia, who just beat Alabama last night. That includes beating Texas A&M, who will be in the NCAA tournament by 19 in College Station. And last night, again, a bad Mississippi State team, admittedly, but you beat them by 34 without Thomas Houck. Florida's best player didn't even play, and the Gators win by 34. Again, when we fill out brackets a week and a half from now, am I going to pick Florida to win the national title? I would tend to doubt it because it's unbelievably hard to win back-to-back titles. That's why so few teams have done it. And you think back to Florida a year ago, as fun as that was, you got to admit there was some luck involved. In 4 of those 6 tournament games, those games were in doubt with 30 seconds to go. In the Texas Tech game, if they make free throws, you don't beat Texas Tech. Florida had to make 4 threes in the last 2.5 minutes and have Texas Tech completely and utterly fail themselves at the free throw line on back-to-back 1-and-1 opportunities to squeak that game out. You have to be really good. You also have to have a little bit of luck. Well, Florida this year has got the really good part. We're going to see if they get that little bit of luck that they got last year. Because I'll tell you this. Again, the SEC was historic a year ago. Probably not as good this year as it was a year ago. But having said that, they're still getting 10 or 11 teams in the NCAA tournament. And this Gator team right now, I'm not so sure they're not playing better in February and early March in 2026 than they did in 2025. And I can't believe I'm saying that because you think back to what Walter Clayton and Will Richard and Elijah Martin and Denzel Aberdeen and the front court did a year ago heading into the SEC tournament. I'm not so sure this team from the eye test isn't better than them. They're going to be the number 1 seed, the last number 1 seed, if they win out. Much to the chagrin of UConn fans, Aaron, yourself included. But I think at this point, I've heard from enough people. The interesting thing about that, though, is it really doesn't matter. Because whether UConn's the 1 or Florida's the 2, or Florida's the 1 and UConn's the 2, they're going to be in the same region. Because one's going to be the 4th national team, the other's going to be the 5th. So they're going to be in the same region, and they're going to play each other in the Elite 8. The question is, who has the 1 next to their name, who has the 2 next to their name? But I think if Florida beats Kentucky on Saturday and if Florida wins the SEC tournament, admittedly, that's going to be 4 good teams they have to beat. But if they do it and they enter the NCAA tournament on a 14-game winning streak, they're going to be a number 1 seed again. And back-to-back number 1 seeds for Todd Golden would be incredible. Can that carry them to another Elite 8, Final 4, dare I say national championship appearance? Well, that's for us to find out, and the journey ought to be fascinating. But I will tell you again, I'm not sure that this team right now isn't playing better heading into the SEC tournament than the Gator team last year that ultimately won the national championship. Let's talk a little Gator basketball, but let's talk John Summerall, Gator football, spring ball going on in Gainesville. I call him the college football encyclopedia. My buddy Mike Huguenin has covered the world of college football for years. He joins us next on a Wednesday night here in Northeast Florida. We're glad you're with us. It's Hacker After Dark.
Every day in Duval reminds us why we live here.
You rise up onto bridges over the St. Johns River far below, and Jacksonville shines from a number of angles, like a jewel being turned in your hand.
1010XL, Jacksonville Sports Radio.
Awaken 180 weight loss. Awaken 180 weight loss. Hacker here for the best weight loss program I've ever been on. I get asked a lot, Hacker, how'd you lose over 100 pounds on Awaken 180? What was the secret? And I say, well, wait a minute. There's no secret. I've been very transparent on the radio for the last 2 years. There was no secret sauce. There's no injections. There's no pills. There's no appetite suppressants, right? That seems to be a popular thing now. No. This was good old-fashioned coaching. My coach, Kate, was with me every step of the way. That's what's great about Awaken 180 weight loss. Your coach guides you through the process. You make a plan for the week ahead. what you're going to eat, what you need to avoid, what's your life like, how busy are you. You make a game plan with your coach, you follow the process, the weight falls off. I'm living proof of that. Go to awaken180weightloss.com. That's awaken180weightloss.com, or call 844-346-1800. If it's time for you to drop weight, do what I did with Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Hey, Hicken here. I couldn't be any happier than to join the George Moore Chevrolet family. When I say family, I mean it. Visit their beautiful showroom today off Atlantic Boulevard. Find out exactly what I'm talking about. No pressure, just friendly help. And whether you want a car, a truck, SUV, electric, pre-owned, you name it, George Moore Chevrolet has it. If you can't make it over to Atlantic Boulevard, no problem. MooreChevy.com is easy to navigate as any site you will try. It's never been more easy to use. George Moore Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
After attending a Saturday Bumps and Bruises clinic by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, my son's hip and shoulder issues were diagnosed quickly, and he's back playing. As a busy family, we really appreciate their prompt attention.
I've been having knee problems for probably 6 months, and I had heard about Southeast Orthopedics on the radio, and I gave them a call. They got me right in. Dr. Kevin Murphy did it. It was painless, and it's been doing fantastic.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Did you know your roof ages from the inside out? By the time you see a leak, damage already exists beneath the shingles. Sun exposure, humidity, and seasonal storms slowly weaken roofing materials over time. If your roof is 15 years old or more, then now's the time to start planning, not reacting. At Endless Summer Roofing, we provide professional inspections and clear guidance so you can make informed decisions. Visit EndlessSummerRoofing.com to schedule a free inspection. Endless Summer Roofing, protecting your home from Florida's endless summers.
This is Jeff Middlecoff with Cogent Bank. My associate Ryan Salem and I joined Cogent Bank because we wanted to revolutionize the mortgage business, just like Cogent Bank has revolutionized the banking business. So Ryan Salem and I are able to leverage the power and stability of Cogent Bank to go out and find our clients the best investors, the best products, and the best rates in the entire country for your particular mortgage loan. Of course, you don't have to be a customer at Cogent Bank to take advantage of our mortgage services to buy or refinance your home. We offer jumbo loans, VA, FHA, conventional and investment loans. At Cogent Bank, we offer mortgages nationwide, so we can help you with a second home or help a family member who lives or is moving to another state. Call Ryan Salem or myself, Jeff Middlecoff, at Cogent Bank today, 904-442-9191, to see how we can help you with any of your mortgage loan needs, whatever or wherever they may be.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, Cogent Bank, NMLS ID 402296, Ryan Salem, NMLS ID 1182429, Jeff Middlecoff, NMLS ID 249086.
Hicken here. See clearly with the Eye Associates and trusted optometrists Zachary Boskool and Alice LaFlamme. From comprehensive eye exams, dry eye care, glaucoma management, diabetic eye care, and more, Dr. Boskool and Dr. LaFlamme are dedicated to protecting your vision. Immediate availability at all 5 Jacksonville locations. Schedule today with Dr. Boskool and Dr. LaFlamme by calling the Eye Associates, formerly Bowden Eye Associates, Schneider Eye and Wellness Center, and Janet Betchkel, MD, at 296-0098.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Boy, all eyes on the Gator basketball team. They are absolutely surging as we enter the month of March. But all of a sudden, you look on the calendar, and it's spring football in Gainesville as well. John Summerall's first year as the head coach of the University of Florida, and the Gators begin spring practice this week. Let's talk about all of it with Mike Huguenin. I call him the college football encyclopedia. He's been doing it for years, and Mike's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Mike, hope your off season's going well, man. How are you?
It has been. This is a great time to be a sports fan. You got spring football around the corner. College basketball is in March, which means it's the best month of the year. Baseball is getting ready to start. The NFL draft's a month away. We're nearing the ends of the NBA and NHL regular seasons. It's just a great time to be alive.
Yeah, it's a great time of year. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Like you said, NFL free agency next week as well. But with college football on top of mind, Mike, let's go to Gainesville and spring practice for John Sumrall and Florida. You and I spoke, I guess about a month and a half ago, almost 2 months ago. But since the last time we spoke, the fact that Sumrall did so well in the portal in keeping the Big Five, as we refer to them, Miles Graham and Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, and the two Jadens, Woods and Baugh. They go out and get Aaron Philo in the portal. They go out and get Eric Singleton in the portal. Mike, how would you assess what Sumrall's been able to do 2+ months on the job?
Yeah, I think the most impressive aspect was he kept everybody, I think, that they wanted to keep, maybe except one or two guys. Extremely impressive. Obviously, Florida has money and is willing to spend it. The incoming transfer portal haul did not have a lot of big names, but I think they had a couple players who will play important key roles this season. I think one aspect that's a little bit been overlooked, Buster Faulkner comes in from Georgia Tech. They bring a couple other assistants and off-field guys from Georgia Tech. They got the Georgia Tech quarterback. They got a Georgia Tech wide receiver. They got a Georgia Tech tight end. And they got a Georgia Tech offensive lineman. So when you're trying to install a new offense, having people familiar with your terminology, familiar with what you're trying to do, and trying to teach, that should be a gigantic positive because there's going to be a tech player in every room except the running back room. But I would argue that's I think running back is the easiest position to learn in any offense. And Florida, in keeping Ball, kept a guy who should contend for first-team All-League honors. I think the one thing that's a little bit up in the air is how the offensive line is going to look. But I think the defense should be relatively stout. Aaron Philo, I think, has a pretty nice ceiling and gives you, I think, an okay floor. Tramel Jones evidently is going to get a chance to win the starting job. Let's see how he performs, the kid from Mandarin High. But I think that Sumrall's off-season has been and continues to be quite productive, and I'm not necessarily convinced that Florida won't get a quote-unquote blind transfer coming in. I know the NCAA has stomped its feet and said, we're going to punish you if you do this. I think schools look at that and go, yeah, sure you will. So the blind transfer aspect is going to be something to watch throughout the offseason, frankly, nationwide.
Mike, you alluded to it. Aaron Philo, Tramel Jones Jr. Do you believe that there is a quarterback competition as spring football opens?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, yes, Philo has the advantage of he's worked for 2 years with Buster Faulkner and understands the offense. But if I'm John Sumrall and if I'm Buster Faulkner, if Tramel Jones outplays my guy in the spring, Tramel Jones will start. So, I don't think Philo has started 2 games in his career, both against rummy opponents because Haynes King was hurt, put up solid numbers. But, a guy with 2 starts against rummy opponents, if he gets beaten out in spring, so be it. I think Philo definitely has an advantage because he understands the offense, knows what Faulkner wants. But I'm 100% confident that if Tramel Jones has a phenomenal spring, then Tramel Jones will take the first snap in September.
Mike Huguenin with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Mike, I don't want to overstate this. And again, there's a lot of potential instead of what we've actually seen on the field. But the idea of a 3 wide receiver set with Eric Singleton, Vernell Brown, and Dallas Wilson, I mean, potentially that's one of the best trios at wide receiver in the SEC, is it not?
Yeah, it is. I think the upside for Brown and Wilson is phenomenal. Both those guys were hurt last year as true freshmen. As good as Vernell Brown III was, he didn't have a TD catch. So there is some wiggle room for, how good can these guys be? But potentially this is an exciting group if you're a Florida fan. Singleton is a big-time playmaker with excellent speed. Dallas Wilson is the kind of big wide receiver you want on the outside, and Vernell Brown showed last year in his play that he is a quick twitch guy who can make people miss, got good speed, can be used in a variety of ways. I think the one thing Florida fans are going to be happy to not see anymore is the wide receiver coming in motion before the snap and no defensive player really caring, because that was Napier's offense. You didn't have to worry about the guy in motion. I think that in Faulkner's offense that will be different. I think you're going to see a lot more 3 receiver sets than 2 tight end sets. I think Jaden Ball will be expected to be a more productive receiver. The offense has potential if the line comes through. I think the skill position guys are good. Thing is, they were good last year. Quarterback play was uneven, and the offensive line didn't always pass block as well as it should. So still some questions, but I think the ceiling is relatively high for this Florida offense.
You alluded to it earlier with the injuries. I don't know if this was a Billy Napier issue or if it was just plain old-fashioned bad luck. But one thing I want to see this spring, Mike, is I don't need 25 guys with air casts and crutches and a shoulder injury or a high ankle sprain who's going to be out for a few months. I mean, the injuries with Billy Napier in Florida were just flat out ridiculous. And you'd like to see with Summerall now with a new strength and conditioning staff that some of that stuff will start to go away.
Yeah, you hope, but I also, injuries, you can get injured if you have the best strength and conditioning staff. You can get injured if you have a horrible strength and conditioning staff. I do wonder, and nothing against the players last year, but with a new coach in there, with everybody presumably fighting for a starting job or at least a positioning on the depth chart, maybe there were some guys last year who chose, my arm is hurting today. I'm going to take the day off in spring. I don't think you'll be seeing that this spring, because I think that guys do realize and recognize that new coach, I need to stake my claim. I'm going to do everything I can to stake my claim. And I'm not saying that if you're hurt, you should practice, but I do think that some guys might be a little bit more inclined to work through the pain than perhaps sit out.
Couple of more for the College Football Encyclopedia. Mike Huguenin as the Gators open up spring practice this week, year number 1 for John Summerall in Gainesville. Mike, you watched the Combine over the week. You saw George Gums and Tyreek Sapp and Caleb Banks and Devin Moore. Certainly a lot of Gator defensive players departed after last year. What's your thought on the Gators' defense heading into spring?
I still think that's the most talented side of the ball for Florida. Injuries hurt them last year big time. Caleb Banks, missed 9 games. Devin Moore got hurt. McClain got hurt. At one point, it seemed like every single corner on the roster who wasn't a freshman was injured. So they got some key rotation snaps at the end of the season from Flowers and Hanks. I think the young freshmen, it sounds like Herb Street there, the freshman safeties last year were thrown into the fray and did well. I think the linebacking core, they're going to, I think, basically just use 2 linebackers, and they legitimately seem to be 5 deep there. The defensive front is interesting. They need Jaden Woods to live up to the hype in a way. They need a pass rusher who can get them 10 sacks. Tyreek Sapp was a solid player. He was not a high-level edge rusher. They need somebody to emerge in that role. They need Cameron James to be healthy. They need L.J. McCray to be healthy. I think the one question you could have this year is Florida, the corners and the safeties, the defensive backfield. Now, they brought in 3 transfers to play back there. I assume all 3 were brought in to start. But it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out in the spring. But I think Florida's defensive talent is quite good. Maybe they lack depth a little bit up front, but I'm not 100% sure that's the case. Maybe on paper they do, but I think the talent is there if the guys can stay healthy. And remember, McCray was a top 10 player in the nation. He played, I think, 6 plays last year. So a healthy McCray, Cameron James can do some things. This is an interesting defense, and we'll see how the new DC, Brad White, gets them to play.
Mike, I want to end with a thought from you on basketball, final football thought. Keep in mind, DJ Lagway is no longer here. We haven't even mentioned that. You look at the roster from where it was when the season ended in November to where it is now. And all we can go on is paper until the games start being played. But based on paper, is this a better roster now than when the season ended?
Yeah, I'm not sure of that. You mentioned all the defensive players who went to the combine. Those guys are getting drafted. Gums, I would argue, was underutilized. Caleb Banks was hurt last year. Devin Moore, when healthy, is an excellent corner. But I think the offense, because of the scheme change and the play caller, the offensive roster automatically is better. Because of the scheme change and the play caller change. While I think the defense is extremely talented and more talented than the offense, some of the guys they lost were really, really high level, really, really good players, SEC starters. So some of the guys who are going to be pressed into starting action this fall need to prove they're that. But I think the defense is talented if they can avoid injuries. But offensively, I think this is a better roster simply because the coaching change. I mean, they're going to have an offense that's 21st century offense. And the last couple of years was a 1985 offense.
And there's no doubt about that. Hopefully, with the arrival of Buster Faulkner, things look vastly different than they did with Billy Napier. Final moments with Mike Huguenin. Florida's got a top 10 softball team, a top 10 baseball team. Spring football begins. And they might have the best basketball team in the country again. They're certainly playing like one of the best teams in the country. Mike, it's hard to repeat as national champions. That's why so few teams have done it. But I didn't even think I'd be having this conversation in early March. Boy, you look at Florida right now and the way they're playing, why can't they repeat? They're playing as well as anybody in the country.
Yeah, and they played Duke, they played Arizona, they played UConn, lost all 3 by 11 total points. None of those games were at home, and they were still finding their way. At some point, you wonder if the lack of outside shooting catches up. Last year, you could count on Walter Clayton to make a big play and certainly make a big shot. Florida does not have that this year. They have a bunch of guys who have stepped up at various times, but last year's team had the same, but they also had Walter Clayton. And that's huge in March. I think also Florida's front court, they embarrassed Alabama. They embarrassed Tennessee, and then Saturday they embarrassed Arkansas. So, those 3 teams are all top 20. Florida's front court these are big, mean, athletic, aggressive dudes. And I mean mean in a good way. Handlockton off the bench, can't score. His range is about a foot, but he changes shots. He takes up a ton of space. He's a good screener, and he's an okay passer. Hawk is the best player on the team. Alex Condon's coming on, and Chinyelu is a double-double machine. It's all about what kind of play is Florida going to get from its guards. Again, last year, Golden went into every game knowing my guards are going to be excellent. I still think there's a little bit of a question, into the second round of the tournament, third round of the tournament. Are my guards going to be excellent? Clavzar's shooting touches come around. Xavier Lee seemingly can get to the basket when he wants, and he is basically cut way back on his threes. If Boogie Flynn never shoots another three-pointer, that's actually good news for Florida. Isaiah Brown's coming on strong. This is a wagon right now. They are blowing teams out. And is the SEC as good as it was last year? No. These teams still are ranked. They've beaten 6 consecutive top 20 teams by at least 19 points and scored 90 in all of those games. Actually, the first part's wrong. The second part's correct. They've beaten 6 consecutive top 20 teams and scored 90 in each of those games. First team since UNLV in 91 to do that. So 89-90 rather. This is a wagon kind of team right now. They're imposing their will on the backboards. The guards are playing smart basketball. They're not turning it over. Lockdown defense. You're right. I mean, in January, I would have said if Florida can finish third in the SEC, that will be a good season. They've clinched the title already, clinched the portion. They're going to win it when they beat Mississippi State. And now I think it's a case of if this team doesn't get to the Elite Eight, it will be a surprise.
And you live in Orlando, not that far from Tampa. They're a lock for Tampa in opening weekend. That'll be an unbelievable Gator crowd, correct?
Yes, big time. The schools only get so many tickets, but my assumption is a lot more go on sale to the public. If you're a Gator fan in Florida and you're a basketball fan, you've already bought tickets and you're going to be in that arena to watch Florida. You're right. There's zero doubt they'll be in Tampa. The biggest question is, will they be there as a 1 seed or will they be there as a 2 seed? But I'm not sure there's that much difference. Truthfully, I think being a 1 is self-pride, all that kind of stuff. But right now, this team is their front court is in destructive mode. I mean, what they did to Arkansas, they knew Arkansas was limited up front, and they embarrassed them up front. And they did the same thing to Alabama when Alabama had Bediako. They basically said, we don't fear you. We're going to ram the ball down your throat. It's like a football team running the ball on 2nd and 9. Well, we're getting it, and we're going to tell you where we're going to run it, and we're still going to get it. And Florida's doing the same thing on the basketball court. We're pounding the ball inside because we know you can't stop us, and nobody stopped them in a long time.
Todd Golden on the doorstep of 100 wins at Florida, and he will have achieved that much quicker than even Billy Donovan did when he arrived back in the mid to late 1990s. Mike Huguenin. Mike, I know it's a busy time for you. Thank you, as always, for taking time out, and we'll talk soon, pal.
Excellent. Always enjoy it. Thanks, man.
It's golf's biggest stage this side of the majors, and 1010XL has you inside the ropes.
Get live Southeast Orthopedic Specialist leaderboard updates.
Teed up by Surfside Pools, San Jose Collision, and Lucas Tree Service.
Bueller. Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, pal.
Stand back, Jason. I'm gonna
Sneeze? Yeah, I saw that coming.
It's all this spring pollen, Jason. It's outside and it's inside my house, and I just can't stop. I can't stop.
Sneezing? Okay, let me help you with that.
How can you help?
At Bueller Air and Plumbing, we can improve your indoor air quality with air purifiers, UV lights, and filtration systems. Every new system we install includes high-efficiency 4-inch filters that work better and last longer, even if you forget to change them.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing.
Life can get pretty dusty sometimes. If you spend all day, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Hi, I'm Maria, salon owner. You know the jingle. Now discover the facts about Ozempic, a GLP-1. There's only one FDA-approved Ozempic, made by Novo Nordisk. Learn about the real thing.
Talk to your healthcare professional today. Call 1-833-OZEMPIC or visit Ozempic.com to view the medication guide and to learn more about Ozempic. Semaglutide injection 0.5, 1, and 2 milligrams.
From free agency to the draft, training camp to the playoffs, nobody covers the Jags like Jaguars today. Mike Dempsey and Fat Tony bring the smartest football talk in Duval. Covered by Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors. 10 to noon weekdays on 1010XL.
Hi, I'm Luke Pritchett, Volunteer Vice Chairman for the Players, representing the Cathedral Arts Project. Thanks to the Players, the Cathedral Arts Project is empowering children's creativity and supporting art educators in Northeast Florida. Only 6 days until the Players.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Thank you to my buddy Mike Huguenin for joining me again. Gators spring football going on over in Gainesville. Seminole fans, Florida State begins spring football next Monday in Tallahassee. We'll talk and preview Florida State spring football either tomorrow or Friday. One of the two. I haven't figured out which night yet, but we'll get one of our guys over in Tallahassee on to talk about Mike Norvell. It's been a really quiet offseason for Florida State. Keep in mind, they haven't played a football game in 3 months, 3 months plus. Yeah, we just don't have a whole lot of news outside of Gus Malzahn retiring. So what is going on over in Tallahassee and what obviously is a big year for Mike Norvell? So we'll do a little Florida State spring preview later on this week as they kick off things for spring ball over in the state capitol early next week. It was a big win last night for the Orlando Magic. Finally, they get back on the winning track. They're 32-28 on the year. Jason Tatum potentially coming back for the Boston Celtics in the coming days or weeks. Oklahoma City is their biggest rival, San Antonio. And what about the Eastern Conference? Is it Detroit and everybody else? You realize the NBA, the playoffs begin in the NBA in roughly a month and a half. We are on the doorstep of the NBA playoffs. Every team has played roughly 60 games or so. Let's talk NBA playoff picture, but more so, let's talk Orlando Magic. And if they ultimately do fire head coach Jamal Mosley, who is going to replace him as the head coach in Orlando? My buddy Sean Devon, he has covered the NBA for years. He's with Heavy.com, and he joins us next on a Wednesday night here in Jacksonville, Florida. We're glad you're with us. It's Hacker After Dark till 10 o'clock right here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM.
It's a test of patience and power.
Here they come, side by side for the lead.
This Sunday at Phoenix.
Oh boy, here we go. This is going to be tight right here.
NASCAR is revved up by the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Local Union 234 and 1010XL.
Hey folks, Rick Ballou here from the Blue Crab Crab House. February means the Mardi Gras menu returns to the Blue Crab Crab House. Gumbo, shrimp Orleans, blackened redfish, appetizers, dessert, and more. This includes, of course, their regular menu where you get crabs from the Alaskan waters, the Canadian waters, the Southern Georgia waters. It's only at the Blue Crab Crab House. Doors open at 4:30, San Jose, and, of course, Julington Creek Road.
What Major League Baseball pitcher won over 500 games and pitched 749 complete games?
When your homeowner's insurance policy is up for renewal, it's a good idea to shop around to find a better plan. Southern Oak Insurance for over 20 years provides Floridians a clear option. SouthernOak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
With 511 wins and 749 complete games, Cy Young's record won't be matched.
Southern Oak Insurance, our family protecting yours.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
This is Mark Nato. My son Justin injured his hand playing baseball for JU. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists performed surgery just a few days later, and within 5 weeks, he was cleared to play in the ASUN baseball tournament. Our family has trusted Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for years. For any orthopedic injury, let Southeast Orthopedic Specialists take care of you too.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Are high-interest credit cards and other loans sucking the life out of your finances? It's time to say no more. Let Loan Pronto tap the equity on your home and get the cash you need now so you can pay it all off. Hey, it's Prosser here. Corey and Jack called Loan Pronto in a matter of days. They had $160,000. They kept their 3% mortgage intact, didn't even need an appraisal, and with all that cash, they wiped out all their credit cards and 2 car loans, saving $2,000 a month. You can do it too. LoanPronto.com, the rapid equity loan program, can get you $100,000, $200,000, even $500,000 in cash. Chloe and Ethan just did it. Consolidated all their high-interest debt into one super low monthly payment, giving them an extra $1,000 a month. Imagine, pay off all the credit cards, slash your monthly payments, breathe easier. Get your life back. Interest rates are at 3-year lows. Call Loan Pronto today, 904-999-1500. That's 904-999-1500, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781. Visit NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Checkmate. I'm Brendan Cecilia, founder of Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, Checkmate's mascot and brand ambassador.
Why do you even talk in these ads?
People see me on the trucks, Brendan, so they expect to hear from me as well.
But I have over a decade's experience personally installing high-quality polymer floors right here in Jacksonville.
Well, I'm a professional mascot, riding around on the side of your trucks, smiling at passers-by.
Then could you at least tell people about our 2-stage polymer application process? Give your garage the finishing touch with a gorgeous floor that's guaranteed to last?
A bit busy posing for selfies, I'm afraid.
Years of experience?
Check. Adorable mascot?
Check. The team you need to make your garage gorgeous? Checkmate!
Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate.
Visit checkmatecoatings.com. That's checkmatecoatings.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Now, the Monahan's golden moment. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach, your local family jewelers.
FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Boy, the NBA season's chugging right along, man. Most teams are at about the 60-game mark. That means we're going to have playoff basketball very, very soon. Playoff positioning is obviously on the line. That includes both the in-state teams, Orlando and Miami. Let's talk about the Magic, the Heat, and look around the rest of the association with Sean Devaney, one of our main NBA guys. He's been doing it for a long time with Heavy.com, and Sean's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Sean, how we doing, man?
I'm doing well, Ryan. How are you?
Hey, Sean, we're good. Thank you so much for the time. Orlando got a much-needed win last night, although as you and I were talking earlier, the Wizards did not put up a lot of resistance last night. But nevertheless, a win's a win. And for Paolo Banchero, it was a 37-point game that he sorely needed.
Yeah, especially with the back and forth between him and Jamal, that anything they can do to kind of put that behind them and move on here is going to be good and is going to be needed. Look, he's not played well this year, and obviously they've had injuries and there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on that we can point to, but this is not where the Magic expected to be at this point. It's not where Paolo Banchero expected to be. You can look at him and from his rookie year to now, you can really wonder what he's gotten better at. Where has he improved? And that's a big question for this team. You can point to the injuries and you can say that's what's gone wrong, and there's some truth to that. But I think the bigger issue is that, especially with Paolo, that a lot of the guys that you'd hoped would get better, that you'd hoped that you pay them the big money and they're going to come back as better players. We just haven't seen that happen.
You look at Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner. Unfortunately, we saw it last night with Wendell Carter. I mean, we're at the injury-prone label with some of these guys now, right? The fact that Banchero, Wagner, and Suggs have only played 14% of games together over the last 2 seasons is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's right, and at some point, it's bad luck. But at some point, you start to say, is this just part of who these guys are as players? Are we looking at something where this is going to be an issue? And with Wendell Carter, you kind of knew that. Even when he signed the contract, his value is probably tamped down a little bit by his injury history. But the other guys are being paid, like max guys, and it's just hard to figure out why this keeps happening. With Franz, it's the ankle now, and we've seen a lot of ankle, hamstrings, all those kinds of things. And you start to wonder, are they not taking the right care of themselves, or what's going on here that this keeps happening?
Sean Devaney, Heavy.com. I will say Desmond Bain, and until recently Anthony Black, although he's hurt now and he's kind of come back to planet Earth a little bit, but Desmond Bain has been one of the bright spots. Look, I was very optimistic when they gave up 4 first-round picks to get him. But having said that, I think Desmond Bain's had a pretty good year.
And he was, if you could have told me that Desmond Bain would have the numbers that he's had, and that Anthony Black would have taken the step forward that he's taken, then I would have said that this is a contender. That to me, those were two of the X factors. Is how is Bain going to adjust in a new situation, and is Anthony Black going to become the player they think he can become, and what we saw in flashes last year. And both of those things have happened, and that's the really frustrating thing from the Magic is the two things you weren't sure about happened, and it was the things that you were supposed to be sure about that haven't happened, and that is keeping these guys healthy and getting some improvement, getting these guys who, even though they're making max contracts, still have a long way to go in terms of their development, and we just haven't seen it from any of the three, really from Jalen or Paolo or Franz with the injuries. But even when he's played, it's hard to say that he's that much better of a player than he was 1 or 2 years ago.
I don't even know why I'm going to do this to myself, but I'll ask you anyway. They're a half game out of 6. They're only like 2 games out of 5th. I mean, if they can just get healthy, they can get themselves at least out of the play-in, correct?
Yeah, and they have enough talent to where if Franz isn't playing, they still should be able to win some games here, and that's the frustrating thing is that, I think that the injuries have almost become a crutch, and it becomes easy to say, well, we're not going to win this one because we're not 100% healthy. Nobody's 100% healthy, and teams still win games. So, they should. They're heading into a pretty difficult part of the schedule, and that's going to be part of it, and there's going to be games that are fast and furious here in the next 5 or 6 weeks, and like I said, they've got some tough opponents coming up. So they're going to have to be ready for this, and we haven't seen a lot of indication that they are ready for this. But if you just look at the talent level and you look at what they've got on the roster, they should be able to possibly move into that that number 5 spot, or certainly be able to hold that number 6 spot.
Orlando 32-28 on the year. As we wrap up with our Magic thoughts, I want to branch out to the rest of the league with you, Sean. But you mentioned Jamal Mosley. There was a back and forth between him and Paolo. The coach is never going to win that publicly, particularly when you're paying Paolo what they're paying him. I mean, are we at the point now, if Orlando doesn't get out of the first round, is Mosley gone?
Yeah, I think that's, and I'm not going to suggest that it's fair, but I think that's what's bound to happen, because you've got yourself committed to these contracts, and you really can't do much with them. Eventually, you're going to have to ask the question: can Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero play together? Is that part of the problem here? Do we need to have some more positional difference between those two guys? Does one of them have to go? I don't think they're at that. That's not going to be their first solution, though. The first solution is let's fire the coach, and then if it doesn't change anything next season, then I think you start to look at, okay, do we need to make a move with one of these two guys? But yeah, before you do that, you're always going to fire the coach. It's sad to say, but that's just how these things go.
If they fire Mosley, their first call has to be to Mike Malone, correct?
I would think so. So yeah, I think he's the best guy on the market, and I think with his connections that he would make a lot of sense. And when you look at the style of coach he is, kind of the no BS sort of guy, you feel like maybe that's what this team needs. And of course, he has the resume, he has a ring, so he would be coming in there with of all the jobs that might be open, that probably will be the most appealing one, because like I say, they do have a certain talent level that other teams just can't match.
And his dad, Brennan Malone, was a longtime assistant in Orlando.
Exactly, right, right. He's got the connections there.
Yeah, certainly familiar with the organization. All right, let's look at the Eastern Conference real quick. Again, Sean Devaney, Heavy.com, talking NBA. Detroit, I watched them firsthand a couple nights ago, bludgeon Orlando in the second half. Boy, Sean, they're good. They're inexperienced to an extent in the playoffs. They'll have to get some experience quick if they're going up against the likes of Boston and New York. But is Detroit clearly the favorite going into the Eastern Conference playoffs?
Well, I mean, certainly they're playing the best. I have some serious questions about them as a contender. I just think when you get in the playoffs and you're going to match up against the Celtics, or the Knicks or the Cavaliers, certainly any of those teams, then I think that those are going to be tough matchups for Detroit. They're going to get by on toughness and grit and rebounding and all those things. But in the playoffs, you've got to be able to make 3-pointers. You get down by 12 in the second half, you've got to be able to knock down some threes, and they just don't have anybody. Duncan Robinson's really their only shooter, and it's hard to see them really being able to keep up with some of these other teams with that deficiency. I think like a team like Cleveland, that's a really tough matchup, and you saw a little bit of that last night. Thompson is a great defensive player, but now Cleveland could put out Donovan Mitchell in a playoff series, Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. I think that's really tough for them. So, I guess I'm not there, and it's not just the youth. I think some of the roster stuff, I think they're still a player away from really being a real contender in Detroit.
Boston has done an incredible job without Jason Tatum. It appears they're going to get Tatum back before the playoffs, which is crazy to me. I thought he'd missed the entire year. How will Jason Tatum's return affect what Boston can do?
Yeah, I mean, it raises their ceiling, but it also lowers their floor, because you can imagine him coming in and wanting to be Jason Tatum. And he's not a guy who's going to come in and be okay coming off the bench and shooting 8 shots a game. And this is a team that, has gone 41-20 without him. So how do they adjust to his presence? And is that too much? Now they'll have plenty of time, because look, they'll get maybe a month with him left in the season, maybe 3 weeks, so we'll have some adjustment time there. The first round playoff series, especially if they could hold on to that number 2 spot, they'll probably be okay with that. They'll be able to cruise while still making some adjustments, so they really won't have to get peak level Jason Tatum until early to mid-May, and that'll be a couple months, so he'll have plenty of time to get himself up to speed. So I do think there is time for that, but that's the thing that concerns me, is just in terms of the chemistry, they've got something established now. How do you drop a guy in who hasn't played in a year but is going to need 15-16 shots a game? That's a difficult thing to do.
Final question in the East. We mentioned Orlando. Any thought on Miami? They're probably going to be in the play-in. Can they make the top 8 and do anything in round number 1?
Yeah, I mean, they're always a little bit dangerous, but, I do think, when you look at that roster, you've either got, a spent force on one hand, or you've got, guys who are just too young, guys who are, they've got a lot of young players who are contributing and who have been doing well. But, it is something where the chemistry has just seemed off there. I think that, we keep talking about them making a major move. We've been talking about it for 3 or 4 years, and they haven't done it. And that still seems like a team that just needs to do something. So they could get into that first round of the playoffs. It's hard to see them putting up much of a fight. Hopefully more of a fight than they put up last year. But it's hard to see them, having a real chance to advance.
Orlando needs to play them every night. Orlando's 4-0 against Miami this year. Sean Devaney, Heavy.com. Sean, let's finish in the West. Is it Oklahoma City and everybody else, or is there a strong challenger in either San Antonio or Denver?
Yeah, I mean, look, San Antonio's been fantastic, and they're a fascinating team. They're a young team. They can throw a bunch of different looks at you, and they might be good enough to where the fact that they are inexperienced doesn't matter. That they just have enough talent to overcome that. I do think that they're going to play the Thunder in the West Finals, and that's going to be a fantastic series. And I'd give San Antonio at least a chance to win. I would certainly have Oklahoma City favored, though, but I think it is really those two teams. You mentioned Denver. Denver's got the talent, but something's just been missing. They haven't really had. They haven't been fully healthy. They've missed Aaron Gordon, Peyton Watson, and Cam Johnson. Both, they've had a lot of guys they were sort of relying on who haven't lived up to their billing, who haven't played up to their talent level. So I'd say it's Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and it might be Minnesota. That's actually sort of the third wild card in there. If anybody's going to challenge, I mean, that's a team that's got a lot of playoff experience. They went to the Western Conference Finals the last couple of years, and certainly they've got arguably the best player in the league in Anthony Edwards.
Sean, final question. Durant just dropped a 40-piece on Orlando. So my question is, who's more dangerous in the West, Durant and the Rockets or LeBron and Luka and the Lakers?
I think Durant and the Rockets. I just think that they have too much other talent, that they have much better role players. They have guys who can defend. They have guys who can score, and they have a much better coach in Ime Udoka. So I would give Houston a much better chance of making some noise in the Western Conference. The Lakers, sometimes you watch them and they look like a team that can't wait for the season to be over. They know that things are going to change this summer, and you can kind of tell that these guys are ready for those changes to just sort of happen. If it's LeBron leaving, going to Cleveland, whatever's going to happen there, I think you watch this team and just talk to people around them, and there's a real sense that things are going to change drastically in the next year, and that this team is just sort of waiting for that to happen.
Sean, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville, Heavy.com, and the coverage you guys will have as the NBA regular season begins to wind down.
Yeah, we're getting ready for the playoffs. We'll start doing some draft coverage as well. So, lots going on.
He's one of our favorites, Sean Devaney, Heavy.com. Sean, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for the time, and we'll talk again soon, pal.
Thank you, Ryan.
And thank you to Sean Devaney, Heavy.com, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. Sean has been one of my NBA guys, well, for a long, long time. And we certainly talked about Orlando, who did get a win last night. And look, as bad as it's been for the Magic with injuries and bickering, what appears to be bickering back and forth between their star player and their head coach and the media, they still sit 32-28 on the year. Only a half game out of the sixth spot in the East, only about 2 games out from the fifth spot in the East. So they can still turn this thing around to an extent, but it has been a tumultuous season for Orlando, quite frankly, with all the expectations they had coming in, all the injuries they've had to deal with, and I think it's pretty obvious, at least to me, that if they don't find a way to get out of the first round, that Jamal Mosley will most likely not be back as Orlando head coach. And Mike Malone, look, the guy won a world championship in Denver. Malone's father, Brennan, was an assistant in Orlando for many years. It makes an awful lot of sense if he wants to get back in to have a job like Orlando waiting for him. And that is ultimately where I think it does wind up, barring a postseason run for Orlando. So we spent some time on that. Certainly spent some time on the Florida Gators. Big basketball win last night over Mississippi State. And obviously spring football underway for John Summerall and Florida in year number 1. Also spent some time on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, they re-signed tight end Quentin Morris earlier today. We got free agency next week. You can begin negotiating on Monday. You can officially sign on Wednesday. And as we talked about last night, the fact that both Devin Lloyd or Travis Etienne did not get franchised by the Jacksonville Jaguars probably means they've played their last game in Jacksonville. And in Devin Lloyd's case, it almost assuredly means he's played his final game as a Jacksonville Jaguar. Well, that will just about do it. Man, very, very busy Wednesday night edition of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. And we have a ton of people to thank. Again, my buddy Sean Devaney has covered the NBA for years. He's with Heavy.com, and we always appreciate Sean taking time out for us, as is my buddy Mike Huguenin. I call him the college football encyclopedia, man. Mike has been covering the game for a long, long time. Appreciated his thoughts on John Sumrall and year number 1, spring football for the Florida Gators. We appreciate Mike Huguenin joining us tonight, and Cody Carpentier of Roster Watch, as we certainly took a look at the Jaguar free agency class, took a look at this upcoming draft class as well, and we thank Cody for spending time with us here this evening. Now, we will be back tomorrow night on a Thursday, and we will do it all over again beginning at 8 o'clock. Aaron Williams was your producer tonight. Aaron, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark, on 1010XL, and on 92.5 FM. So for all of us here on HAD, have a terrific remainder of your Wednesday evening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow night on a Thursday beginning at 8 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jacksonville.
Mortgage rates have dropped. They're expected to move lower. Home sales momentum is building. So now's the time to get your home ready to maximize your sales price. It's time to call Chad and Sandy, the proven experts